Most people admire intelligence from a distance, but they rarely understand the psychological cost of having a mind that never stops. A mind that sees through people too quickly. A mind that notices the cracks in conversations, the inconsistencies in behavior, the motives hiding behind words that everyone else seems oblivious to. The truth is, extremely high intelligence is not gentle. It's not glamorous. It is often a quiet burden, a constant awareness, an internal isolation that feels like living in a world where everyone else is speaking in half-finished sentences. If you've ever felt like your thoughts move faster than the conversation, or like the people around you aren't seeing what you see, you already know this wound. The world calls it intelligence. But to the people who have to live with it, it feels more like distance. Disconnection. Hyper-awareness. And a kind of emotional solitude that is hard to explain without sounding arrogant or strange. But beneath this lies a darker truth, one most people never talk about. Extreme intelligence doesn't just change how you think. It changes how you perceive others, how you read their intentions, how you understand their emotional weaknesses. And once you see these patterns, you can never unsee them. Tonight, we're going into the hidden psychology of people with extremely high IQs, the traits most people romanticize, the burdens they never notice, and the darker abilities that can make these individuals far more dangerous than they appear. You're about to understand a side of high intelligence that society never acknowledges, a side that's unsettling, powerful, and almost impossible to hide. If you're someone who wants to understand the hidden psychology most people ignore, subscribe now. These videos take hours of research, and most viewers watch silently without supporting the channel. Your engagement helps this content reach the people who secretly need it. Let's begin. People with extremely high IQs don't just think differently, they feel differently, too. Their minds operate at a pace that most people never experience. While others are reacting, they're analyzing. While others are speaking, they're observing. And while others are focused on the surface, they're quietly mapping out the entire psychological structure beneath the interaction. This is why highly intelligent individuals often seem emotionally distant. It's not that they don't feel, it's that they feel too much, too quickly, and process it at a level that becomes exhausting. A simple conversation becomes a multi-layered analysis, how someone phrases their words, the micro-expressions they don't realize they're showing, the emotional motives behind the sentences they choose. To the highly intelligent mind, social interaction becomes a puzzle, not a conversation. And after years of constantly reading between the lines themselves start to feel painfully shallow. What most people don't realize is that this emotional distance is not intentional. It's adaptive. When your brain detects patterns instantly, you learn to anticipate what someone will say before they finish talking. You predict the ending of stories before they're halfway told. And you recognize manipulative tactics long before they fully reveal themselves. This makes small talk feel like static. Social rituals feel performative. And superficial relationships feel suffocating. But here's the part that becomes even more complicated, because highly intelligent people see so much, they often say very little. They learn that silence is safer than revealing the depth of what they notice. Silence becomes a form of control, a calm, quiet space where they can observe without exposing themselves. And this silence, used strategically, can shift an entire social dynamic. But this is where high intelligence begins to turn darker. Most people think manipulation is loud, aggressive persuasion, dramatic tactics, emotional pressure. But highly intelligent individuals understand the truth: real manipulation is silent. It's subtle. It's invisible. And the most powerful influence comes from understanding how people think before they understand it themselves. People with extremely high IQs often develop what psychologists call predictive social reasoning. They don't just read your emotions, they anticipate your reactions before you feel them. They sense insecurity through a single hesitation. They detect lies through tone inconsistencies. They recognize power plays before you realize you've made one. This makes others feel unnerved around them without knowing why. They feel exposed, as if someone is seeing the part of them they don't show. But here's the darker layer: extreme intelligence can make someone dangerously good at emotional influence without lifting a finger. Not through manipulation in the traditional sense, but through perception. When you understand what someone fears, what they desire, what they hide, or what they pretend to be, influencing them becomes effortless. This is why many highly intelligent people stay quiet in groups. Silence isn't shyness, it's strategy. They're watching the group form its hierarchy. watching who dominates, who submits, who performs, who hides. They notice things others miss, who interrupts to gain control, who seeks validation through laughter, who competes through subtle insults. They don't join the game. They study it. Have you ever watched someone stay completely silent in a group, yet somehow maintain the most psychological power in the room? Tell me in the comments if you've witnessed this, or if you've been that person yourself. Because now we reach a deeper, more unsettling truth. Extreme intelligence often leads to loneliness, not because these individuals can't connect, but because they can't turn their minds off long enough to fit in. Their thoughts are too layered. Their awareness is too sharp. They're constantly noticing patterns others ignore, inconsistencies others dismiss, emotional dynamics others accept as normal. This creates a psychological gap between them and the world. A gap that grows the more they understand people. A gap that becomes a type of internal exile, living among everyone else, but never fully belonging to them. Over time, highly intelligent people learn to mask their intensity. They learn to pretend they don't see through people. They mimic normal conversation patterns. They hide their analytical depth because revealing it makes others uncomfortable. They hold back insights because speaking them aloud makes them sound condescending, even if they're simply being honest. But beneath the mask, their mind is running a constant silent audit of every interaction. And here's the dark reveal: extreme intelligence doesn't just increase awareness, it increases emotional detachment. Not because they lack empathy, but because they've seen too much. They've noticed too many contradictions in human behavior, too many manipulations, too many emotional games, too many people who say one thing and mean another. They stop expecting authenticity because they've learned how rare it is. They stop relying on others because they've learned how inconsistent people can be. They stop revealing themselves because vulnerability feels like handing over a weapon. And in this detachment lies a dangerous combination: intelligence without emotional dependence. Perception without needing approval. Awareness without needing connection. This is the type of mind people fear without understanding why. This is the person who can walk away from a relationship without looking back. The person who doesn't crumble when rejected. The person who becomes impossibly difficult to manipulate because they've already detected the attempt before it formed. But the darkest part is this: intelligent people often see others the way a chess master sees pieces. They don't want to control anyone. But they know they could. This psychological awareness becomes a quiet power, an invisible dominance that rarely needs to be used, because simply having it changes the way they move through the world. And this brings us to the final realization: extremely intelligent people are not dangerous because of what they do. They're dangerous because of what they understand. They're dangerous because they see the subtle emotional mechanics behind every human interaction. They're dangerous because they predict patterns others never notice. They're dangerous because they can walk into a room and understand the entire hierarchy within seconds. But the truth is, most of them aren't trying to dominate anyone. Most are simply trying to survive in a world that feels too loud, too slow, too emotional, too inconsistent. Extreme intelligence is not a gift. It is a weight. A responsibility. A silent, internal dialogue that never stops. And the people who carry it often live between two realities: the outer world that sees them as quiet, calm, or distant, and the inner world that is constantly decoding everything. Once you understand the psychology behind high intelligence, you start to see people differently. You start to notice the quiet ones. The observant ones. The ones who say little but miss nothing. The ones who appear calm but think deeply. The ones who don't need attention because they already understand the room. And eventually, you realize something unsettling: the smartest people in any room rarely announce themselves. They hide in plain sight, quietly reading everything. Thank you for watching. If this video challenged how you see intelligence, consider subscribing. Share this with someone who thinks deeply, who feels misunderstood, or who lives more in their mind than in the world around them. And if you're ready to explore the psychology of hidden human behavior even further, watch the next video on your screen.